So today we're going to talk about what to do when you have too many story ideas. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do you get story ideas? I can't think up any story ideas. Some people, though, have the opposite problem where they have too many story ideas. Their brain is filled with all these great new ideas that they want to work on. They don't know which one to start with. First of all, I want to say congratulations. It's a really good problem to have as a writer. It means that you're really receptive to ideas coming at you. It means that your creativity is just firing. But yes, I know it can be a little confusing when you have so many ideas and you don't know which one is the best one to start with. So what I would say, number one, get a journal, or even just like a little box that you can keep all your ideas in. So if you have a journal, every time you get a new idea, jot it down in your journal. I like to keep I actually have like a little Lego box that my son made me, and when I get a new story idea that I'm not yet ready to tackle, I will write it down, put it in this box, and it's sort of like a treasure chest with all these ideas just waiting for me when I'm ready for them. So really, that's a really great thing to do when you feel overwhelmed by all your ideas. If you, and this often happens to writers, if you're working on a story and in the middle of the story you get an idea for another great story, and the temptation is to put aside the story you're working on and jump over to this new story, especially because part of the writing process is getting stuck. So chances are, if you're in the middle of working on a story, chances are that you're dealing with that frustration of having writer's block, feeling stuck, and that's when you really want to jump ship, go to the next idea. But I would say no. It's really, really so valuable to finish the story that you're working on. When you finish a story, you actually learn so many different things about writing and the writing process. You learn how to develop a character over the span of the whole story. You learn how to let the characters change and evolve. You also learn how to end a story. Endings can be a little tricky. And also, you learn how to revise your story, and you learn the actual power of revision, so that the next time you work on a story and you're feeling frustrated and you don't know where the story should go next, and you worry if your story isn't good enough, you will know, because you've experienced revising a story, you will know that this is not the last shot at writing the story, that you're going to be able to go back and revise and change things, and that really takes the pressure off of you while you're writing a story. So I really, really encourage people to finish the story that you're writing, even if you don't love it in the end. That's okay. What you've learned is very valuable. Another idea that sometimes works is if you're working on a story, and again, you get a great new story idea while you're working on your other story, see if you can find a way to weave in this new story into the story that you're writing. Sometimes that does work. You can maybe find a really cool place for it as a subplot. Another thing to consider about story ideas is sometimes they need time to grow and develop. They kind of start out like frog spawn. They're sort of blobby, and they need time to develop into an actual frog. So you sometimes really need that time to let your story idea develop before you actually launch in and write it. So it's not a bad time to, when you get a story idea, to write it down somewhere and sort of sit with it while you're working on something else. Let it sort of be in the background. Let it sort of grow its legs. Maybe it's something you're thinking about while you're working on another story. Maybe it's something you'll get to in a month or even a year. That certainly happened to me. And during that time, you probably will every now and then be thinking about the story, maybe thinking about the characters, so that when you're ready to work on it, you're going to be working with a much more developed story idea than you would have way back when you first started thinking of the story idea. So what do you do when you have a whole bunch of ideas and you really like them all, but you don't know which one to work on? So this is something that I do, and I find it really useful. I will call a friend, and or talk to a family member, and I'll go through my story ideas. I'll talk about them. I'll describe, the general idea behind the story idea. And what typically happens is there'll be certain story ideas where I will feel excited. While I'm talking about the story idea, my voice changes. I get really, passionate about this idea. All these new fresh ideas around this single story idea start coming into my brain. And sometimes my friends will point it out and say, hey, you know what? It sounds like this is the idea that's really getting you most excited. So you really do kind of want to work on the idea that is getting you the most jazzed up. Like that really is what's going to drive your story forward, is how you feel about your story. So that's something that you guys can try, is talk to friends about your story ideas. See which idea is rising to the top. If you want more tips for young writers, check out my books, Spilling Ink, A Young Writer's Handbook, co-authored by the amazing Ann Mazer, and Writers 911, How to Tackle Writer's Block and Unleash Your Creativity.